of all the things I could talk about on this channel, I didn't think John Deere would ever be on that list. Yes, that John Deere, the one that makes tractors and various other agricultural contraptions. John Deere over the years has been getting a lot of fire and a lot of flack over right to repair, simply not making things accessible that are needed to repair these devices. But the hardware side is more of Lewis Rossman's territory. I can't really add much to that. What I can add to is the software side and the possible GPL violations. Now, anyone that knows about Linux generally expects that a lot of the devices in their life are running Linux in the background, whether it's a car, some random IoT device, pretty much anything else out there. Yes, some of them are running Windows, some of them are running BSD like the PlayStation, but a lot of things are using Linux. And John Deere is absolutely no exception there. But while there was some speculation about how much they might be using it, what devices might be using it, everyone became 100% sure over some devices when a talk happened at DEF CON 30 last year in 2022. This was a talk by Sick Codes called Hacking the Farm equals Breaking Badly into Agricultural Devices. And what he did during this is, firstly, we have the X-Terminal emulator here, but if we go a little bit further, he starts playing a video game that many of you are probably going to recognize. This is Doom. Specifically, this is a Doom mod about farming, which led some people to wonder, clearly they're using GPL code, so are they fulfilling the requirements under the GPL and giving out the source code when they are asked for it? They do specifically say in their terms of service this right here. Third-party software notifications and licenses, this big notification about blah blah blah. If the third-party software contains copyrighted software that is licensed under GPL/LGPL or other copyleft licenses, copies of those licenses are included in the third-party notice. You may obtain the complete corresponding source code for such third-party software from us for a period of 3 years after our last shipment of the software by sending a request letter to this address right here. Please include name of the product and the version number of the software in the request letter. This offer is valid to anyone in receipt of this information. Now, this is a really inconvenient way to get the software to you. What they would probably do is send you back a CD or something. But this is a totally valid way to fulfill the GPL. All you need to do is give out the source code if it is requested. So are they doing that? Well, that's the thing. The Software Freedom Conservancy made that request, but they're kinda tired of waiting now, and recently released this blog post over on their website. John Deere's Ongoing GPL Violations, What's Next, by Denver Gingerich, I'm gonna say, or Gingerich? Correct me in the comments. Now, most of the start of this is just preamble about how the author used to live on a farm. We could always repair things. My parents and their parents and their parents been doing this for thousands of years. You've heard the general spiel before. But the important part starts about here. As a result, farmers are cut off from their livelihood if the farm equipment manufacturer does not wish to repair their farming tools when they inevitably fail, even when the farmer could easily perform the repairs on their own or with the help of someone else they know. In particular, John Deere, the largest manufacturer of farm equipment in North America and one of the largest worldwide, has been failing to meet the requirements of the software right to repair licenses they use for some time. While we have worked for years with John Deere to try and resolve their compliance issues, they have still not complied with these licenses for the software that they use, which would give farmers the right and technical details to repair their own farm tools if complied. Now, failing to meet the requirements and not complying with these licenses probably means they had like an email chain back and forth, they sent off letters trying to get the source code released. But the person who would have seen that would have been some random John Deere grunt who has no ability to actually change anything within the company. So it's like, I can't do anything, we're not gonna do anything, you're not gonna do anything, so like, nothing's gonna happen here, no source code is gonna be released. This is a serious issue that goes far beyond one person wanting to fix their printer software. This is in relation to Stallman and the reason why he made the free software movement, or install an alternative firmware on a luxury device. It has far-reaching implications for all farmers' livelihoods, for food security throughout the world, and for how we as a society choose to reward those who make our lives better or stand in the way of empowering everyone to improve the world. When we are talking about these modern computerized devices, they are a lot more than the physical parts that make them up. If you have a cart that is made to be drawn by horses, you can see everything that goes into that system. If the wheel breaks, you just replace the wheel. If a plank is missing, you just replace a plank. But when we are dealing with these computerized systems, the software running on that hardware is just as, if not even more important, to making the system operate the way it's expected to operate. Let alone the fact that if you go into like the mobile space, you have devices that are locking down parts based on the serial number, and you can't even replace the part anyway unless you have this extra device that can go and, change over some stuff, swap over serial numbers, or unlock the serial. This is something that Apple, for example, has been pushing onto their customers for a really long time. And while Apple and John Deere are certainly very different companies, it doesn't change the fact that the devices they are producing heavily rely on these computer systems, and there are cases where you may need to repair something going on the software side, updating the software, modifying that software, things that you would traditionally be able to do if we are dealing with an entirely mechanical system. Like, say you have a car from the 60s, for example. There's no computer system in that stopping you making any modification you want. Should some of those modifications be made? God no, but you can do it. And while right to repair is certainly really important for the general day-to-day consumer, when we're talking about a farm, these are generally in really rural locations, so even if you wanted to get something repaired, in many cases it might not even be convenient to go and get someone else to do it. It might just be way more convenient for you to be able to do it yourself. And now back to the blog post. As we've been doing privately for multiple years, we now publicly call on John Deere to immediately resolve all of its outstanding GPL violations across all lines of its farm equipment by providing complete source code, including the scripts used to control compilation and installation of the executable that the GPL and other copyleft licenses require to the farmers. Now, it's entirely possible that everything John Deere is doing is just already publicly available. We know on that device used in that DEF CON video, that was running a distro called Wind River. This is a very popular embedded system, and maybe everything else they're using is just normal Linux stuff. There's nothing really out of the ordinary, and all of the custom stuff they're using is using a proprietary license and isn't even modifications to the regular code. In which case, why is there a problem about releasing that code? If none of your internal code is going to be released, just release it. And if your internal code is going to be released, what harm is that actually going to have? Because you still can't make these modifications to these devices easily. Like with phones, like with tablets, like a lot of other devices out there, these tractors are really locked down. So even if you had that source code, you wouldn't really be able to do that much, all that would be done is John Deere would be following the licenses they chose to use. There was nothing stopping them using a BSD system that wouldn't have this problem. Like, there's a reason why Sony with PlayStation doesn't have this problem. Their stuff is based on, I think, FreeBSD. That license doesn't have the same sort of requirements that the GPL has. And what Deere has provided to the SFC, the Software Freedom Conservancy, as of today, falls far short of the requirements of the GPL, with respect to both this quoted text and many other parts of the license. And that speaks only of the products for which Deere has started to engage with us about. For many of almost a dozen requests we've made, each for a different product, Deere has yet to provide anything to us at all. In addition to failing to respond at all to others who have requested source code, Deere's inability to provide complete corresponding source to us for all requested products more than 2 years after our initial request is beyond unacceptable, which is why we are making this public statement today, to more strongly encourage Deere to do the right thing and comply with the licenses they use, and to let others know about these serious problems, so they have a more complete picture of Deere's attempts to stifle farmers' right to repair their farm equipment. Is this blog post, this video, any other video out there, any other blog post out there, all the articles this is getting, is this actually going to achieve anything? Is John Deere suddenly going to start complying with these licenses and actually release the source code? I'm not going to say never, but we're talking about like a 0.0000001% chance that anything actually changes. Because if they weren't listening up until this point, what reason do they have to change? Until laws are being enforced, until someone goes to court to try and protect these licenses, John Deere and others that are abusing the GPL like this simply are not going to care. Their feet need to be held to the fire. A blog post is basically as useful as an online poll. Yes, you are the Software Freedom Conservancy, but if John Deere doesn't respect you, they're not going to start now. I saw this one comment the other day that sort of encapsulates the major problem with free software. At this point, it's starting to seem like the GPL was only ever a bluff, and it's being called on us now. No matter what we're talking about, whether it's, some other random legal document, a license, a contract, or anything else, these are only as strong as the lawyers that are protecting them. And if these cases are not going to be fought, why would a company care? If nobody is going to try and enforce that license, why would the company even care about it? They should care about it. They should do the right thing and, respect the license, respect the wishes of the developer. But if they don't care about doing the right thing and nobody is trying to force them to do so, it makes sense why they're behaving like they're behaving. So at this stage, it seems like the SFC is just going to sit around and just wait it out for a couple more years, hoping that John Deere is actually going to do something. I don't think they will, but maybe they change their mind. Now, one thing you might be thinking is, why don't farmers just leave John Deere? The same can be said about Tesla, Apple, or any other notoriously locked down company out there. But the problem when we're talking about these agricultural devices is much, much larger because of the price tag attached to them. Let's say your farm is $1 million in the hole just to John Deere, and one of your tractors has an issue. And let's say you can't repair it yourself, the only ones that can repair it are a John Deere dealership. Well, it's going to be much cheaper to get it repaired than replacing that entire device. Let alone the fact that John Deere has made it incredibly easy to get into their ecosystem and make it convenient. While these farms do exist in rural locations, in many cases, John Deere is the only convenient option to get to. So yeah, you could go and buy from some other company, but their nearest dealership might be an entire town away, And can you justify that device not working for that giant length of time? Maybe you can, maybe you can't, but it's not like farms are running on these massive margins anyway, so you probably are going to keep doing the thing that's been working this entire time, and considering that no individual user is being treated as badly as the entire collective, it can seem like the problem isn't really as serious as it is if you look at everything going on. Your experience is maybe not great, but it's not horribly bad. But you apply that to every single customer, and now it looks a lot worse. But for the most part, you're probably just worried about what's going on with your life and not what's going on the macro scale. Worrying about the macro scale, that's for us nerds who think too much about right to repair, the GPL, free software, and all this other stuff. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you have any experience with companies getting in the way of right to repair, whether that's on the software side, the hardware side? I would love to know. And maybe not just on like mobiles, but other things out there as well. Maybe even some weird things that nobody would expect to hear about. I would love to know. So if you like this video, remember to go and like the video. And if you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon, Scribes, Daily Bearer Pay linked down below. That's going to be it for me, and I'm out.